AITA for demolishing my daughter's room after she moved out? My 18-years-old daughter, Meg, is in college. She moved in with her boyfriend a few months ago, which left her old bedroom empty. Her bedroom used to be right next to our tiny living room. To make our tiny living room into a normal-sized living room, we knocked out my daughter's room's wall, refloored the space and fixed the walls. Now it looks like the bedroom never there, and we have a spacious living room. When my daughter came home to visit and saw that their room is gone, she made a huge deal about it. She got all emotional and said if we never wanted to let her move back, we should have just said so instead of completely demolishing her room. I told her that if anything happens and she needs to move back, we will welcome her and she could sleep on the couch as long as she wants. But she accused us of wanting to get rid of her forever and for her to never visit us since we got rid of her room so fast, only a few months after she moved out, and we should have waited longer. AITA for not waiting longer with the renovation? AITA for not taking out loans for my daughter's college? Okay, so some backstory first. My wife and I have 3 daughters, 27, 25, and 18. Our oldest 2 are ours biologically, and we adopted our youngest at age 7 after my sister passed. My in-laws were pretty comfortable financially and set up college savings accounts for our oldest 2 daughters when they were born. My parents and her mother and I contributed to these accounts as well, but mainly my wife's parents. The problem is that my wife's parents passed before we adopted our youngest daughter, and therefore they did not set up a fund for her. My wife and I created one for her when we adopted her, but with less time and without my in-laws' help. When our oldest daughter went to college, she was able to cover 3 years of her education and took out loans for the remaining year. With our second daughter, she went to community college before transferring to a state school, so her savings covered it, but ended up taking loans out towards her graduate degree a few years later. My wife Andy have not signed on to any of our children's loans and have not paid for them. We told our girls that way would only be able to supplement their education from the beginning, so it wasn't a shock. However, now that it is my youngest daughter's turn to go to college, her savings will only cover a year of school, maybe 3 semesters. Recently she asked us about loans and it seemed she was implying we would take them out. We let her know that wasn't the case, and she confirmed our suspicions by getting angry at us and saying it wasn't fair she would have to pay so much more than her siblings. We seem to be at a standstill now, with her refusing to speak to us unless we agree to take out at least part of what she needs, and us refusing. Are we ta here? Edit. Fixing grammar mistakes edit. Someone mentioned to add this. The oldest 2 had roughly 40K in their accounts and our youngest has 25K. Both of our oldest daughters went to our state school, which was only around 12K per year, and our youngest is going to a private school that costs around 18K a year. AITA for telling my sister she knew what she was signing up for after she named my late nephew after our grandfather? When my sister, 35, was 25, she gave birth to my nephew who passed away soon after birth. Until that moment she wanted to name him Dylan, however after he passed away she named him after our late grandfather, Theodore. As in until my late nephew passed away he was Dylan, but after he did he was Theodore. She didn't write a name in the birth certificate, because in our culture we only fill in the name after a ceremony. When she told me what SHE did, I told her she should change it because my cousins, 4 cousins, and I plan to name our children after him, and we all made it clear age sago that no matter what happens we'll stick to it. However, we all agreed to wait 5 years before naming our future kids Theodore out of respect for my late nephew. My youngest cousin gave birth 3 months ago. She had a son who she named Theodore. When the rest of my family heard, they started yelling at her and calling her names. My sister called me sobbing and calling my youngest cousin every horrible name under the sun. I told her the same thing I said in the title. Now everyone is also upset at me. The only people on my side are my 4 cousins, but I feel guilty and feel that I could have handled it better. AITA and #X200B forgot to add. The reason why our grandfather's name is so special for us is that he raised the above-mentioned 4 cousins after my aunt and uncle passed away, and me after my family kicked me out when I was 14 because I was gay. He was basically raised 4 kids and later me till we were adults. My sister was not at all close with Grampson, she didn't even attend his funeral. Edit. Only one of the kids between the 5 of us ID going to be called Theodore. Sis named her second son Dylan, which was the same name late nephew Hattie told her to change it because I knew as soon as someone named their kid Theo, she will throw a temper tantrum. I knew she wouldn't listen. AITA for removing my wife's wrist privileges. Sorry for this random throwaway. I am 36 meters and Shay's 34F. The honest core of this question is that I am super auntie, notification. I know I sound like a boomer, but I got sick of knowing that Aunt Maple commented in my Insta post years ago. I will open the app if I want to know that. I do not need to know about Aunt Maple's comment until the second I seek out that information. However, I appreciated the health and activity features on the Apple Watch. So I got one for myself, and I tediously curated the information delivered to me on my wrist. Notifications are even worse on the watch because I can't exactly just flip the watch over and ignore it. My wife, whom I love very much, wanted to make sure she could get a hold of me, so we use a chat app that allows notifications. The rules were very clear when I switched to this app. She can text me once and I'll answer at my earliest convenience. I will always know it is her texting because she is the only person who has access to my wrist notifications. Any more than one text means emergency. She has run afoul of that rule many times, as you can guess. She says she very literally cannot stop herself when she gets excited and that she's not neurotypical like me, so I can't understand. And she's right. I don't understand what it's like to have ADHD, but I do know what my boundaries are with my wrist buzzing while I'm at work. Last week, she sent me like 4 consecutive texts because she found out that her coworker, who we don't know and frankly do not care about, had gotten a DUI while he was in college, years ago. So that night I sat down with her and said I was not going to do the wrist notifications anymore, and that I'd regularly check my phone for messages from her. She was kind of vaguely mad about it for a week. But yesterday I finally just confronted her about it, and she said that she thought I was being disrespectful of her limitations and that everyone gets used to notifications eventually. I said it had been 3 months and I was still not used to it, and she said I should give it more time. Here's where I might have been an SS-hole. I told Harry thought this was a tiny issue that wasn't even worth being angry about. I still check my phone for her texts and I've never missed one by more than like 15 minutes. I also explained that she can still call me if there's an emergency. She's still mad. AITA. ETA okay, she got home and I just had a short but really helpful conversation with her. She didn't really want to buzz me all the time, but she felt really special that she was the only person who I allowed to text me on the watch. She was sad that we lost that little intimate connection. And that makes total sense, and we both committed to finding a good solution that makes us both happy. Really sorry that I dragged so many people into this. It was a small thing that could have been solved by both us being super vulnerable and honest with each other. WIBTAH if I tell my sister and Bill about an issue last night at their wedding with me and his cousin. Edit. I wish I could edit the title to Would I Beth if I ask if his cousin is well. I don't want to tell them to stir the pot or have them tell him off. I'm considering mentioning it as I'm concerned whether or not I need to be concerned with this guy moving forward and how often I'll be seeing him. My sister got married last night. It was great, but here was an issue with me and a cousin of the groom. The wedding was about a 3-hour drive from our house, and the venue is also a resort, so we got one of the rooms that was booked as part of the wedding group. The place also has complimentary EV chargers, so I didn't stop to charge along the way. When we got there, one of the chargers were in use and the other had a regular car parked in the spot, blocking it. This was the corner of the lot, and there was like a utility shed off to the side of that spot, with the golf course behind the parking lot. I was able to back up to the car and get the charger to reach, without disrupting anyone else. Also, as I'm sure people will ask, the spots on the other side of the plugged-in car were occupied, so that wasn't an option. My now brother-in-law comes up to me later after cake was served and asked if I blocked a car to plug in, and said his cousin was freaking out and that I need to move. No problem, got up right away and went. But then I get out there and this guy is flipping the UCK out. Who do you think you are? You don't know whose car this might be you're blocking. What if I needed to get back to my kid? ETC I was like, hey man, we're family now, so I'm just gonna move the car and you go ahead and calm down. And then he goes, no, I'm sick of you people thinking it's okay to do this. At that point I go, whoa, listen buddy, I saw the lot was pretty full when we got here, which is why I didn't give you hit for parking here, but now I'm getting the feeling this has happened before, so WTF is your problem with blocking chargers? I gave you the benefit of the doubt, Booth. Honestly, I'm sure you could have parked somewhere else. At this point, car is unplugged and I'm getting in it, and he's like, yeah, I'm not walking further, so you can plug your toy in. At that point, I told him if I see your car again anywhere, I'm gonna block it just because, giving him a little grin before moving to the other side of the parking lot. He was yelling as I drove off still, and now I'm wondering if I'd be the SS-hole for telling them what happened with him. AITA for being mean and hostile my first only time at a support group? My 5-year-old started kindergarten last year, and his teacher recommended he get screened for a learning disability. The specialist diagnosed him with ASD, and now he has a 504 plan. The specialist also recommended a support group for mothers, but not fathers, which I found weird, and said it would be really helpful for me because I'd be able to benefit from the experience of other moms. Me the information for a local group he said heck knew several members of. I did go yesterday. I left my son with my husband because I wasn't sure what to expect. I showed Pan saw a few mothers and children. Right away I noticed that several were not engaged with their children at all and had them sat in a corner with tablets. They were very welcoming to me and invited me to sit with them. I intended to keep quiet and listen, because it was me first time. The other mothers were eager to talk to me and explain the roadmap to me. They said some things that shocked me, including several hurtful things about their children that were I near shot. One mother said, "There will be days you absolutely hate your child," and then looked over at her son. They also said, "Be prepared for your husband to mostly or completely disengage." A few of them told me they were divorced and blamed their small children for being the cause. My shock and, I admit, disgust, must have been all over my face. One of them asked me if I was overwhelmed, and I should have kept quiet, but I couldn't. I said I thought it was really gross them to blame all their problems on their kids. If their husbands were deadbeats, that wasn't the kid's fault. Hating your children isn't normal, and it's a sign something is wrong with the parent, not the child. They got cold and one said, "A year from now you'll be embarrassed about how arrogant you were. Things will only get harder, and you'll realize what an *SS you're being." I left because I knew there was no point in staying. I also decided I didn't want to see that specialist anymore. When I called to cancel my follow-up with him, he asked why. I said I was going to find another specialist because he recommended me a toxic group. He said that group was for venting sessions, not medical advice, and explained it was supposed to be a form of stress relief. I just canceled and decided not to argue further. Part of me thinks I was an *hole to those women, that I gave them the same lack of empathy I saw them give their kids. Another part of me is just completely freaked out by them. Was I an ass to those other mothers?